Hey, good evening. So, I guess we're up to the 12th episode or something. So this is this is one that I've been waiting to do because I wanted to do it right. So, if addiction is judged by how long a dumb animal will sit pressing a lever to get a fix of something to its own detriment, then I would conclude that net news, as in network news, is far more addictive than cocaine. This is by the prominent Swiss physiologist Robert Stamfli. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. I saw that one. I thought it was extremely funny and poignant. So, like I said, I've been intentionally waiting to make this vid about the drug war because this is the cause I take direct action in and choose to defy the government in some respect. If my memory serves me well, in my previous videos I have hinted that I use cannabis and that I am a politically active person about it. I lobby with the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, also known as NORMAL, without the A. And my vlog series is not associated with my political ties to this First Amendment group. So just to be clear about that, so don't be calling up Keith Strope and being like, you know, look at what Steve's saying. I do not say this as a rep of NORMAL. I say this for myself, utilizing my First Amendment speech as I group with you here on the internet to speak my views and grievances towards the government. Now, although I presume many people know the general truth and absurdity of the drug war, but let me start with a thorough review. This is not going back to the dawn of time. I'm going to leave a few snippets out, but you get the point. So, in the West, our culture began an attitude of prohibition starting in the church, post-Renaissance era and pre-women's liberation movement, because it comes in waves, believe me. Basically, the witch hunt craze, which was the first reaction to women's liberation, was the witch hunts. The church, which still had a decent amount of political power, hadn't fully lost it in the throe of the Renaissance, but was definitely losing it in the terms of medicine because part of the issue was getting past the Black Plague and things like that. And so the church had to realize that they didn't have a monopoly on health anymore. People stopped believing in them for that. So what happened was that they didn't like the herbalists that lived outside of the major cities and towns. Most of these herbalists were women who loved to live in the woods. Some of them kept up the traditional cultures that they were accustomed to before they were Christianized, back time immemorial, as the Roman Empire was spreading. So they would cite fear and everything else to get people to have a problem with these women that had the ability to concoct anything out of anything with herbs, thus creating the modern myth of the witch. The witch hunts were mostly about anti-women's issues, or at least keeping a well-defined role for women, and any matriarchal hierarchies the church approved of, such as nun convents and things like that, where, you know, a mother superior would have a lot of power, things like that. But basically, if you were a woman and your power structure was not in line with Christian ideology, you get the point. Anyway, the situation wasn't perfect, though, because, of course, at this point, Protestantism was in full swing, and so naturally there was dissent, and it also wasn't everywhere, and it really wasn't about cannabis anyway. And cannabis was just a footnote amongst other things, you know, and it was at that time that the church declared that wine was the only sacrament, or something like that. It's not the most thorough part of the history that I understand, because I try to keep things in the present and what's relevant to now. But anybody who asks me about the history, I'm happy to share what I've learned. Anyway, we accelerate now to the post-Civil War America. Medicine is exploding with the practical uses of opiates discovered and battlefield medicine. Also, the snake oil salesman is invented. Many of these unregulated medicine men set the template for the pharmaceutical industry. Many were profiteers selling false promises, but also they would sell things that work, especially if you had an established drugstore in a town or city and weren't just a door-to-door guy who could disappear and people would forget your face the next week. But every drugstore in the country sold cannabis tinctures and extracts for treatment of a wide range of issues. But smoking cannabis was also very popular among the first generation and on of freeborn blacks and Mexican Americans. Or, I'm sorry, Mexican immigrants. Like the witch craze, 200 years prior, the witch craze went on for a while, mind you. Actually, America was the last country to get on the bandwagon of the witch craze, and it was the last one to get off as well. Because we all know the whole deal with the Massachusetts issues and things like that. Europe had gotten over it long before America did. But that's besides the point. 200 years prior, in colonial America, pot was used as an excuse to hunt people down who were gaining social stature in the culture. Today, we are essentially working off that use of prohibition. You make everything against the law so you can arrest who you wish, when you wish. Meanwhile, the people try to be lawful out of hope that obedience will be rewarded with being left alone. That's how the control works. This is precisely why the Ninth Amendment exists. To take laws that are, so that you cannot misconstrue the law to violate the Fourth Amendment amongst the other laws that are out there. So they can control the population, preventing people from establishing independent economies and organized uprisings. Why cannabis? On the drug side of things, it treats pretty much all pain and cures a lot of things like cancer. And this is now widely known. The government wants to be the gatekeepers of health. Plain and simple. On the hemp side of things, hemp is a cheap and easy crop to grow. It is useful for consumption, textiles, other raw materials. It's a very multi-purposed thing. You can replace petroleum with it. It's insane, the threat to the established economy that it is. But what would be freeing the economy for you and me and the average farmer? It works so well on all those levels, even if you do natural processing to make it's called hempcrete. It's hemp and like limestone or something. It's concrete, basically, made with hemp fibers as a filler, and it's got this petrified quality that's fantastic. Go check it out. Called hempcrete. But also, the black market is a major convenience for funding government black budget operations without being held accountable to anybody. This is why the CIA and MI6 control the international drug trade, at least here in the West, and why every terrorist organization is funded by drug money. This is also why every drug cartel is officially labeled a terrorist group. There are no terrorists out there that are not. There are no terrorists, I should say, that are independent of a financier that is funded by somebody's government and our tax dollars. The government knows who the real enemy is. It doesn't matter. They want to give the cops total authority to find a law that you are breaking and force compliance. That is one of the many reasons the need for 9/11 was made. You know, they're not pulling you over looking for a terrorist. They're never going to find it. They're just happy to find out you happen to be drunk, even though you may be the person that wasn't having a driving issue, but you were just mildly buzzed. They're happy to find the open beer container to write you a ticket. They're happy to find pot on you. If you're in a decrim state, they'll just write you a ticket. If not, you're going to jail. You're transporting something, and they'll find some stupid bureaucratic law that says that you're not a commercial vehicle, you can't have this particular item packaged this way. It's stupid. Like I've said in a previous video, cops are bureaucrats with a badge and a gun. This is how they go through the bureaucratic process to fuck you, because it has nothing to do with making the community safe, has everything to do with making you scared for social order. When the whole point is that you're supposed to be able to take care of yourself. Second Amendment says, hey, listen, probably everybody on this block has a gun. Do you feel like breaking and entering to steal something for your own personal gain? Good luck, because the owner has the right to shoot you on sight, and you don't have any legal defense because you're the criminal. That was a good system. It worked. It made the world a safer place. There was less death because of it. That's a better world, in my opinion. So either that, or you want to throw your entire paycheck away at having an ultimate police force to make us feel safe and not have anything at the same time and no peace of mind because we're worried about Uncle Sam staring at us all the time. It's half the reason why they have to be secretive about their surveillance, because they don't want people feeling that paranoid. Although a lot of it can't be helped. The USA Patriot Act makes you paranoid on its own merits. Anyway, I would recommend that as a culture, to have an attitude that someone can make their own decisions to do drugs and it's not your concern, and to not believe that drugs are a threat to me or to anybody, so don't waste my time making these laws happen and enforcing them. Repeal these laws. Go and legalize drugs. That should be the attitude. Don't worry. You're going to say, oh, we should legalize it. And they're going to say, oh, well, these several terrible things will happen. And just say, I don't believe you. That's nonsense and folly, and why don't we try legalizing it? And if I'm wrong, we'll go back to making it illegal. Or something like that. Don't let these people fuck around and make you work off that particular argument. It's a terrible argument. So, thank you so much for listening, and namaste.